I actually made a video this offseason that was me essentially throwing up my hands and saying, I don't really know what to expect from the Raptors. And that video was weirdly controversial because I don't know, I guess people expect me to have a hard line in the sand take all the time, but literally my whole opinion on the Raptors was that I don't really have an opinion. That this is a roster that has quite a bit of talent, but I don't personally see how it's exactly going to come together. But thus far, through 16 games, it has come together quite well. As of right now, they are the fifth best offense in the NBA, which I definitely would not have guessed, and they are the 10th best defense. If you were to tell me that the Raptors were one of the best teams in the East this year, I would have banked on it being more so for the defensive end of the floor. RJ Barrett's a pretty good defender. Scotty Barnes is an excellent one. Jakob Poeltl is a really good defender. Emmanuel Quickley is a pretty good defender. Out of the starters, Brandon Ingram's the only guy who I wouldn't say is an above average to even very good defensive talent. But they've been on good on that end, but it has been the offensive end of the floor that has made them so deadly. I watched their most recent game, not their most recent game against the Wizards, the one before that against the Philadelphia 76ers. And what stood out to me was entirely backed up by the numbers when I went and looked after. This is the best fast break offense in the entire NBA. And they're averaging the most points. They're getting the most fast breaks, and they're not even like forcing their opponents to turn over the ball that crazy. They are just getting out there and running. The Raptors are one of the youngest teams in the league, and actually, if you remove Garrett Temple from the equation, they are like at least I think in the bottom five or top five, depending on your perspective, on just being the youngest teams. And a lot of this has just been that everybody plays their part. This has been a very egalitarian team, a very everybody eats team. As of right now, they have four guys in their starting lineup who are averaging 12 plus shot attempts, between 12 and 15. Ingram's taking 15.3 on the high end. Quickly is taking 12 per game on the low end. And they overall have six different players who are averaging double-digit points. Probably the biggest addition that I just didn't factor into this equation at all has been Sandro Mamu Kelashvili. Mamu Kamashvili. Did I say that right? Hopefully. That's what the pronunciation is on Basketball Reference. He did have, this guy didn't come out of nowhere. He actually had a really crazy game last year for the Spurs where I think he went like 7 for 7 from three. I think it might have been one of the fastest, something along the lines of like one of the most efficient 30 or quickest 30-point games. Yeah, he had 34 points in less than 20 minutes because he went 7 for 7 from outside and 6 for 7 on his twos. That game was against the New York Knicks playing for the Spurs, but they brought him in. He has been basically a center for them. He's definitely a small ball center. I don't think he's 6'11", but he doesn't really play like a big man. He definitely reads more as a wing to me. Not much of a shot blocker, not much of a rebounder, but he can hit the three. He is shooting 44% thus far. He's also at 63% from two. And for the Toronto Raptors in general, they are one of the best teams in the paint, both in volume and efficiency. I believe when I last looked, they were like the third or fourth highest points in the paint team in the entire league. So they have that on their hands. They're one of the best they are currently the best fast break team in the entire league. And they are not very high volume from three. In fact, I believe they're in the bottom 10, maybe even bottom 5 in 3-point attempts per game. However, they are currently 10th in 3-point percentage. So while they are not taking a ton of threes, they are hitting them. And that was like my number one concern for this team was the 3-point shooting, because between Ingram, Barnes, and RJ, none of them have ever really established track records of being like hyper efficient and especially high volume 3-point shooters. Like for the 4 years prior to this for Ingram, he shot 36.5% on 4.6 threes. And that is the best out of those three guys. That is your best shooter on the wings. But Emmanuel Quickley is a very good shooter. Scotty Barnes is currently shooting 41% from three, though his volume is low. RJ Barrett is at 34%, which is not great, but it's also not horrible. Ingram is at 29%. That is easily their worst issue in terms of the 3-point shooting, at least. But across the board, they're hitting their threes well enough, and then they're scoring inside the paint really, really well. To put this into perspective, the This team currently has 7 players who are shooting 57+% from 2. One of them is Jamison Battle, who barely plays, and Ochai Adbaji, who barely plays. So you can take that out and say 5, but like 5 guys who are very efficient from 2-point range. But the number one thing about the reason this Raptors team is so good, one thing that stood out to me is the playmaking. Like, I was also worried about that aspect of the game because there's good playmakers on this team, but not really any ones that I perceive to be particularly special. However, that's probably not the case because Emmanuel Quickley is a good playmaker. He's averaging 6 assists to just 1.6 turnovers, and Jamal Shed has been really good passing the rock in his limited minutes. He's averaging 5.4 assists and 1.2 turnovers in just 18 minutes of action. So per 36, it'd be averaging nearly 11 assists per game and less than 3 turnovers. So that's like excellent playmaking per minute that he's bringing to the table. Scotty Barnes is a good playmaker. Brandon Ingram is solid. RJ Barrett is sometimes great, sometimes but he's been solid this year. And I would also throw Jakob Poeltl into this equation. Now, he's averaging 1.8 assists. You wouldn't necessarily read him as like some high playmaking guy. However, he makes the right read all the time. Jakob Poeltl makes the right decision on a roll, as a roll man, as a short roll playmaker, top of the key, dribble handoff stuff, playmaking hub stuff. Like, he is good at all of that. He actually had a stretch in the third quarter of that Sixers game where he was really diming people up. So like, across the board, everyone in this starting lineup is a good passer. Everyone in this starting lineup is good around the rim. Everyone in this starting lineup is at least capable-ish of hitting a jump shot. Jakob Poeltl, not so much the case. However, what weapon he has, and what I think has largely been underrated in the NBA at large for a big man, is having a floater range shot. Because currently, he is shooting 62% on his floater range shots. He's also shooting 82% at the rim. So he's just been hyper efficient on these shots. He also shoots 50% literally the last 3 years from 10 to 16 feet. Not really a lot of actual jump shots, just super deep floaters from him. But one way or the other, like, he hits those shots from those ranges. So he is like, if he's 10 feet away from the basket, he's still a threat. And that just means that, like, if there's a dump off pass into the paint, if the big is a little too sunk under the basket, he's just going to hit that floater and he's going to punish the defense every time. So it's not like spacing in the sense of like all the way out to the 3-point line, but it's still a lot better spacing than just like a dude who can only hit a shot right at the rim. As of right now, the Toronto Raptors are 4th in assists per game. But here's what's interesting, and this is something that makes me like really excited for this team and made me really enjoy watching them, because I watched like 3 games of theirs to get an idea of why this team's been so good. I watched their Hornets game as well. They are 12th in passes per game while being 4th in assists, and they are 26th in turnovers. Do you get me? Do you get how insane that is? Being that low in turnovers while being the 4th best assist per game team in the entire league. So they are like really efficient with their passes. There's not a lot of wasted movement. There's not a lot of wasted action. They are just attacking intelligently, deliberately, quickly, in a way that the defense really cannot break up, because their passes are on target. The options are always so, like, I'm telling you, dude, the way they were passing versus Philadelphia, I was like, I can't believe how good this team is at playmaking. I'm a little embarrassed, frankly, that I didn't see it early on. The point of this channel, as opposed to the Rusty Buckets channel, is I want this to be a library, or not a library, journal, basketball journal. So like, I'm going to come on here and I'm going to tell you guys when I do not know shit. And in the case of this Raptors team, I didn't really know shit. I didn't really know what was going to make this team work. However, my God, have they worked. Last thing I will throw in here. Oh, also, actually, 2 things. They're very good in the paint, despite the fact that they are not a good offensive rebounding team. They're currently 25th in offensive rebounds per game. So like, that speaks to their efficiency, that they're not even needing those second opportunities that much. and their volume. But also, probably the only thing that I would say is at risk of dipping and making this team worse, they have been exceptional from mid range this year. Like, really, really good. They are shooting 51% on shots from 10 to 16 feet and 48% from 16 feet to the 3-point line. That is well above league average for both of those, especially the 10 to 16 foot, the shorter mid range shots. And that is 17% of their shot diet in total, which is higher than a lot of other teams. So they are relying a lot on some mid-range shooting between Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, a little bit of Emmanuel Quickly, and RJ as well. So I do worry about that. And I would also add that, like, man, I love Ochai Agbaji. He's not played good this year. He's not played much, period. So I'm worried about him. And Grady Dick. I have not liked Grady Dick in these games. He has been a decent-sized chunk of the rotation, but he's been, like, the only guy who I've been seeing getting a lot of time where I'm just like, man, I don't want to fucking see Grady Dick right now. It doesn't really feel like he should be on the floor. But yeah, shout out Jamal Shed. Also, their rookie Colin Murray Boyles. I haven't really gotten super strong of an impression from him in any of the games that I've watched because he hasn't really done anything that spectacular, but he appears to be at least solid. Like, he's shooting 50% on threes, 50% from two. Seems to be a pretty capable defensive player as well. I don't have much of a take on him, but he's also been pretty good. So, like, across the board, shocked at how good this team is, but also, like, when actually seeing it in action, it completely makes sense. And I also want to give credit to Darko Rajakovic because he was a whatever coach for the first 2 years that he was there. He has really impressed me with his coaching and it just in general, the way that this team approaches offense. And what I would probably say is the most important is Scotty Barnes doesn't have to be, like, clearly the best scorer on this team or, like, clearly the focal point of the team. He's only taken one less shot per game than last year. Like, it's really not that crazy, but, like, it really felt like last year with the Raptors that just everything revolved around Scotty Barnes, and that's just not the player that he's meant to be. He is meant to be someone who is a really, really good secondary third guy, not even necessarily in terms of, like, offensive role or shot diet, but just purely, like, he's a very complementary style of game. And now he gets to be much more of a complementary guy because RJ Quickly and Ingram are taking so many of the shots and are such a focal point of the offense. It feels like Scotty Barnes can do role player shit more so than spending his time failing at being a first option. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this team. When I was told they were 8-9 in their last 9 games, I was like, what the fuck? Did not understand how that happened, but upon reviewing the film, dude, this team's legit. Like, I think the playmaking is legit. The offense might not stay top 5 because, again, the mid-range numbers are really super high. Still have some concerns about 3-point shooting, but I see no reason why the defense would fall off. At the bare minimum, they should still be quite a good playoff team in the Eastern Conference, and one that could potentially even get into, like, contenders in the East conversations, which I always have to preface that, like, being a contender in the East, there's an asterisk on that because being able to win the East, I don't think there's any team in the East right now that isn't going to get dumpstered on by either the Rockets, Nuggets, or Thunder. But still, I think they could be one of the best teams in the East and maybe even go to the finals just because of how, again, not very good the Eastern Conference is. So, yeah, the Toronto Raptors, they're fucking good, dude. It's awesome. That's it. Goodbye.